Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And I'm super excited about today's conversation. It's with Sebastian Jimenez. Hi, Sebastian.
Hi, happy to be here. I'm super glad to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. So, Sebastian, you are the founder and CEO of Rilla.
Yes.
Which is the leading speech analytics software for the home improvement industry.
Yes.
And I got to see it. I just came back from Accelerator Live. Thank you to Adi and Brian Kaskabalchin, which I've done podcasts with both of them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put it in the show notes.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Adi.
Hello.
Hi.
And I actually witnessed your software, and I think it's genius because we are all about processes and procedures. And your software actually makes it so you can analyze your sales process and you can refine it and you can perfect it. And you can actually train your salespeople effectively, right?
Yes.
Because one of the things, and I have a lot of experience with that because, we documented processes for many, many companies. And one of the things you're running into is how do we make sure that the processes are being followed by all? And when you send somebody in the field to go sell, you can't just, just like hear what they're doing in the next room. You don't know what they're doing. But by using your software, you can actually analyze the sales cycle, the sales process, what went right, what went wrong, etc. And it's absolutely amazing. So tell us a little bit more about Rilla. I mean, I know that's what I observed, but I would like to hear from you.
Yeah.
What is Rilla?
So Rilla, like you said, is the leading speech analytics software for home improvement companies. So what that means is if you're selling windows, siding, doors, HVAC, plumbing, roofing, solar, pest, a storm restoration, you're going out there, you're talking to customers in their homes, right? And so with Rilla, what you do is you record your conversations right from your mobile phones or tablets, just like this, right? From the Rilla Voice mobile app. And then we use AI to automatically transcribe, analyze, and give you feedback from all of your sales conversations and to help your sales managers do what we call virtual ride-alongs that are 100 times faster, better, and more productive than physical ride-alongs, right? So, when we say feedback, right? Like, what does that mean? The first thing is that Rilla understands what the top performers in your team talk about. So they talk about pricing, do they talk about building rapport? When do they talk about these things, right? And it understands how they talk, right? It understands if they talk, 50% of the time versus the customer. It understands how much patience they have before replying to a question, how much they wait. It understands how many questions they ask. It understands what they say, how they say it, and then it gives you feedback directly from how you differ from the top performers. So it tells you, hey, Sebastian, you talk 195 words per minute, but the top performer in your team talks 165 words per minute. So you need to lower your talk speed, for example, right? So it literally compares you to the top performers in your team, and it helps your sales manager, very importantly, and your service manager understand if you're following the process, right? So like what our customers will be very familiar with is like when you go out on a ride along, you usually fill out like a little scorecard, right? If you go to the sales manager with you as a sales manager will literally go out with the sales rep and do a physical ride along, and you will fill out a scorecard and you say from a 1 to a 5, how well did they do on presenting the company to the customer, right? How well did they do? And you'll do that. And that's a great thing to do, right? Because that's the only way that contractors typically get to see their salespeople actually following their process or not, right? But the problem with it is that as a sales manager, there's only one of you, and there's maybe like 5 or 10 or 20 salespeople that you manage. You can't be like 5 or 10 or 20 different places at once. So what Rilla does is it literally automatically does that scorecard for you. And it literally shows you every step of the way how well they did in each part of your process, so you don't have to do that. you could do what you focus on or what you do best, which is coaching. You can take the data that's actually coming from the field and sit down with your rep and say, here's what you're missing. Here's what you need to work on, and actually turn the data into actionable kind of changes in behavior. So yeah, that's what Rilla does. I don't want to stop there because I don't want to go too much into it. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So Sebastian, how did you come up with that idea?
So it's funny. So I used to do stand-up comedy, right? And that's what I did. When people ask me, like, what did you used to do before this? We're like, you're a tech guy. I was not. I did study data science. I went to New York University, studied data science. That's what it says on paper. In practice, I literally never went to class, and I went to do stand-up comedy in New York City. That's what I was doing. When you go to NYU, it's like you're literally thrown there. There's no campus. It's like, hey, you figure it out. And how I figured it out is I started doing stand-up comedy. And in stand-up comedy, the precursor for the idea for Rilla is that stand-up comedians always record their sets every single time. If you're a young comic, a veteran comic, you're always recording your sets because you want to review your set to see how you can do better the next time, every single time. Because as a comedian, every time you see a stand-up comic like do a show that's like super well polished, that comedian has practiced that hour of material for more than a year. It takes about a year for the best people to come up with an hour of material because they're testing everything every single time. And the way they test is they record it. Because if you don't record it, you can't go back and review what you did, right? So every single comedian, they record their sets. The original idea for Rilla, precursor, this was not Rilla, but when I was doing stand-up, I was like, what if we, instead of just recording the sets, what if we got the recording of the sets and we analyzed it? Like we use AI to analyze the set and like maybe based on the laughter, the noise, and we kind of like could give a score on how the set went. So you could just not review the whole thing, right? And so that was a precursor, and I kept that in the back pocket, right? And fast forward like 4 years, I transitioned from stand-up into tech. In my head, it made sense. You know what I mean? But we could go into that if you want, but in my head, it made sense to transition. And my first company was a field marketing management software that was used by companies like Heineken, Molson Coors, companies like GetAround, Cash App. That they would do field marketing. Field marketing is like home improvement contractors. It's when you go to the Costco stores, right? And you have people there at the stores trying to generate leads. It's not sales, it's marketing. And for consumer companies that sell food and beverage, it's like they send people out there to evangelize a new product that they're selling, to give free samples to people, and they go to college campuses and so on. And in this, with this company, we sold a software to help them manage these events. We saw that these companies, these consumer companies, had millions and millions of face-to-face conversations with customers every single month. And back pockets, like the idea in the back pocket was like, what if we, instead of just like letting these conversations go out into the ether, what if we recorded them like stand-up comics, right? What if we analyze these conversations, and what if we gave these brands insights on their consumers, on what they think, on what they want, on what they feel like when they try their products. And the idea for Rilla came from guerrilla marketing, from field marketing. That's why it's called Rilla, right? Fast forward 3 years, it took us 3 years to kind of figure out. That was 2019. It took us 3 years of traversing the untraveled path and like the jungle of like of entrepreneurship, right? Which everybody can kind of understand. And we finally found home improvement as an industry, and that's when we kind of like started growing like wildfire. So, but it started for field marketing. It didn't start for field sales.
That's amazing, an amazing story. So now tell me a little bit about your philosophy in terms of business, because I know you have people working for you and you work 6 days a week,
yeah.
24 hours a day. No, I'm just kidding.
Not 24 hours, not 24 hours. But yeah.
So tell me about that philosophy of yours.
So I so at Rilla we work like basically like 12-hour days, 6 days a week. For a lot of our customers, that's the normal course of business. A lot of our customers work weekends too because they're selling home improvement products, and they, people have time to meet in the weekend. So a lot of our customers, this is normal. In tech, this is like we're like the devil. We're like, holy crap, what are these people doing? In tech, you see like all these tech companies with 4-day work weeks and work from home, all this stuff. And Rilla's like the total opposite of that. And so where did that come from? So at Rilla, we have this concept of like the reinforcement learner, right? Like the best companies of all time, the companies that do truly special things for humanity, they create what we call a human reinforcement learner. A reinforcement learner is a machine learning algorithm that is, people look it up. It's how AI learns. That's one of the mechanisms that we mean of AI. When people talk about AI, they usually talk about a reinforcement learner algorithm. And what it does is it's a very stupid algorithm. It's very stupid. It's not very smart. It's not very talented. It's not very creative. It's a very stupid machine. And the way it learns, literally, is by playing a game over and over and over and over again. And every time it plays the game, and you'll see it playing video games, right? It's like a really good algorithm for video games. It'll just try a random set of decisions, right? And it'll fail eventually because it's very dumb, and it dies in the video game. It dies. It's just very stupid. And then it goes back and it plays the game again, and it tries a different set of decisions because it knows, hey, if I try that set of decisions again, I will fail. So it just literally fails a million times over. That's what it does. And if you think of the best companies of all time, that is what they do. They are not necessarily the smartest people, the most creative people. They are the people who try the most amount of things and fail the fastest. That is what they do. You think of Mark Zuckerberg would fail fast and break things at Facebook, right? You think of Thomas Edison when he talked about, he's like, oh, Thomas Edison, you failed 10,000 times, and he said like, no, I didn't fail. I learned 10,000 ways to not do the light bulb, and I found the one that worked, right? And I read the biographies of Thomas Edison. I read the biographies of Nikola Tesla, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Apple, Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, and what I found was that I was like trying to see like what made them so special. And that was the critical thing. It's like, it's not that they were the smartest people. They had smarter people around them. It's not that they were the most hardworking either. It's not that they were the most creative. Like iBankers are really hardworking and artists are really creative. But the one special trait that they had is that they failed more than anybody else. And when other people would stop because they gave up, because, oh my God, it's too hard, I don't want to fail more, which happens when you're doing something new and innovative and unique, right? You're going to fail a lot. It's like by definition. They just kept going, and they kept, and Thomas, for every Thomas Edison, there's like a billion people who stop at the 100th failure, and Thomas Edison keeps going. And so if you understand that that is the critical component to making something unique work and be the leading thing at whatever it is that you do, you know that hard work is just par for the course. It's not the end goal. We don't work hard because of the sake of working hard because we love hard work. No. We work hard because if we work longer hours than everybody else, we get to try more things and we get to fail more in a shorter amount of time. All we're trying to do is learn as fast as humanly possible. That's what the reinforcement learner is trying to do. But if you have two teams and one team is working 80 hours a week, like we are on average, and the other team's working 40 hours a week on average, the team that's working 80 hours is not going to beat the 40-hour team by 2x. It's not. The 80-hour team is going to beat the 40-hour team by like 10x or 1,000x because the learning that you're doing every single week compounds. You know what I mean? And you're learning and learning and learning so much faster that at the end, when you see the reinforcement learner, this very stupid algorithm that doesn't know anything, it ends up beating the best human players of all time. That's what people think of AI. They're thinking of the reinforcement learner. So at first, it's very stupid. But after the millionth try of knowing what not to do, it knows everything. It knows all the possibilities, what not to do and what to do, and it beats everybody. And there's no beating a reinforcement learner that has already learned all the possibilities. And so we are trying to mimic a human reinforcement learner, like the best companies of all time. You cannot do that unless you're working as hard as humanly possible, as long as humanly possible without burnout. And so that's why we work six days a week, 12-hour days. We're trying to maximize our rate of learning.
That is amazing. That's an amazing philosophy. Definitely very unique. And
yeah.
Obviously, you're growing the company and it's successful. So,
yes.
Sebastian, why is the sales process so important for companies?
So, I mean, it's like at Rilla, we say that sales is a sport, right? Like any other sport, you have athletes, you have coaches, and the best sports teams, it is unconscionable to think of a sports team without a system of play. Like you can't think about it. In fact, the sports team that have no systems of play, you don't even think of them as teams. You should think of them as a joke, right? You think about the Chicago Bulls, anybody who's watched the documentary of Michael Jordan, like, why did they win all the championships? Sure, they had the raw talent, and sure, they had the personalities, but what they had was an amazing game system. They had the triangle offense that Phil Jackson designed, right? The same thing when you think of, the best football teams of all time. It's a particular play or set of plays that they know how to execute really, really well. And so without a sales process, you're essentially playing the sport without a system, without a game system. You're never going to be any one of the championship winning teams without a process or a system, right? I watch soccer. I'm Latin American, so it's like You think of the best soccer teams, like Barcelona, FC Barcelona, it's like Pep Guardiola, tiki-taka, right? You have to have a system of play. Without a system of play, you could have the best talent, you can have the best salespeople ever. Without a system of play, you're not going to be one of the top companies in your market. It's impossible. So.
Right. So if we take this analogy of sports, because it says sales is a sport, so that means in sports, you have a coach, like we talked about. But the coach has to be able to watch you. That's why Rilla is so important, because then the coach really coach you correctly. But one of the things is also drill. I mean, you have to exercise all the time. You exercise, you drill, practice. You like work on it, right? They're working hard, right? So what what will be your advice for companies if they go, okay, well, how do I make sure that my process is being followed by all?
So what I would say is, like, first of all, like you said, like that's exactly what we said about Rilla. It's like you're playing without Rilla, or without, something like Rilla, you are literally, and there's not something like Rilla. So without Rilla, you're really, I mean, you could maybe use, like, I mean, the next best step, there's like, Rilla's not for everybody. I would say, like, you have to be a certain level of a company. So something like Rilla would be you literally telling your people to record their conversations on their voice memos, right? Like that's what we tell people to get started on. Like literally just have them record it so you can review it after the fact, right? Rilla is like the recording plus all the data analytics at scale, right? Which you're not going to be able to review everything. But the best advice, if you want to make sure that your process is followed, first, you should have a process to begin with. A lot of people don't even have a process, and in home improvement sales, we have the benefit that there are just literally like people that you can hire from outside to build that process for you. Ding, 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 right? So like, if you don't have a process, the first thing that I would say is like, you can't use a tool like Rilla to make sure your people are following your process if you don't have a process. So first of all, have a process. You know what I mean? And the second thing is, if you do have a process and you are using something like Rilla, or you are using Rilla, right? The biggest mistake that I see people making when they have something like Rilla is that they find the data overwhelming because they want to coach on everything at every single time. You can't do that, because first of all, you can't keep track of everything at every single time. And even if you can, your reps certainly cannot. Your salespeople cannot keep track of everything all the time. They cannot. So what we always see is like the biggest mistake of implementation, of like actually getting this virtual ride-along process implemented in your company, is that you just, every time you go on a ride-along, you coach on everything. Don't do that. You say, as a company, we have 12 steps out of our sales process. This week, I'm going to focus on this part. I'm going to focus on the company story. And not only this week, this month. And not only this month, this quarter. And we as a company are going to get really good at telling the company story, right? That's what we're going to focus on. And there's different ways that you can focus on that you can pick what to focus on. You could look at your conversion rate. You can look at your average tickets. You can look at your cancellations. If your cancellations are really up and that's your business problem, then you focus on your closing sequence, on your, like when you close, there's a step in the sales process, hopefully, that you have to let your reps know how to talk to the customer about what's going to happen after the close, right? So if your cancellations are high, focus on that. Focus on that particular topic to try to get your cancels. If your close rate is down, right, and you want to work on your close rate, then you pick the parts of your process that relate to close rate. You pick the demo, you pick the company story, you pick the process that's called the evolution, right? If your average ticket's down, then you pick the pricing sequences. Like, how do we keep the price high and not have to like go, down, not have to go down on price because like our sales reps don't know how to talk about price, right? So you pick the few areas in your sales process that are tied to the business outcome that you need to improve in this particular quarter or this particular time, and you focus on that and that alone, and then you coach on that, right? You wait until it becomes a habit, until that part of the process is habit for all of your sales reps, and you have brought everybody up to speed, and then you move forward with a different step, right? But you don't coach on everything all the time, every single time, because you can't keep track of your reps. So you focus on one thing, maybe two. That's it. You know what I mean? Right. Until you get it right.
Right. Makes total sense. Absolutely. So you need a process. You need a tool to evaluate the process.
Yes.
And you have to make sure that you actually keep it alive and keep it real and not overwhelm people So people will actually, yeah, absolutely. And as you said, also, it provides a scorecard. So you basically measure it by the scorecard. So you know what to concentrate on. Absolutely.
Correct.
Wow. Sebastian, if people want to know more about Rilla, where should they go to?
Yeah, so go to RillaVoice.com. That's RILLA voice.com. And click on the book.
Rilla, so RILA voice.com.
Yes, two L's, RILLA voice.com. And then click on the book a demo link, put your company, your name, your email, and you can book a demo with one of our highly trained sales consultants who have been trained with the latest in AI technology, because we train them with Rilla. So you tell us how we did.
Amazing. Okay. So listeners, please go there, check it out. And Sebastian, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast. What a great conversation. A lot of new ideas and different viewpoints, and definitely great conversation about processes and how to make your sales process followed by all. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.